This is Kim Newlove, host of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Welcome to part 3 of my 4-part Pharmacist Mom series. Each Friday in May 2022, I am publishing an interview with a pharmacist mom in honor of Mother's Day, which was Sunday, May 8th. If you're new to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, welcome. Again, my name is Kim Newlove, and I am the host. I am a pharmacist by training, but I made a career transition to voice actor and podcast host. Among other things, I narrate audiobooks for women pharmacist authors, provide medical narration to clients in the pharmaceutical and biotech industries, and narrate content for explainer videos and e-learning projects. I was inspired by my nonverbal son who has autism to combine my background as a pharmacist with my speaking voice and launch my business, The Pharmacist Voice, in 2017. My son Craig helped me realize the power of having a voice and using it. My solo podcast episodes are about some aspect of being a pharmacist, a voice actor, a pharmacist podcaster, or my career transition from pharmacist to voice actor and podcast host. My interview shows feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate for something, educate in some way, or entertain so that you are inspired to use your voice too. This is episode 151, and you can find the show notes with links to most of what's mentioned today on my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. Just click on the podcast tab and search for episode 151. Today's episode is an interview with Dr. Natasha Stamper. Dr. Stamper is a clinical pharmacist and online fertility coach. She found her love for all things fertility while living in a remote Alaskan village, navigating her own IVF journey. After many miscarriages, 2 ectopic pregnancies, and 1 cervical ectopic pregnancy, she had her 2 miracle babies. Now, with over 12 years of clinical pharmacy experience and her own experiences, she is so excited to be helping families all over the globe fulfill their dream of making their family complete. You can find her on Instagram at fertility_pharmacist or on her website, fertilitypharmacist.com. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Dr. Natasha Stamper. Hi, Natasha. Welcome to the Pharmacist Voice podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to have you on my Pharmacist Mom series. How was your Mother's Day?
It was really good. We just stayed home and kind of low key. We're remodeling our basement, building an office. That was what I requested for Mother's Day. So we just spent the day moving furniture and getting some new office stuff. So that was exciting.
I had a good day as well. And spending time with family is one of my favorite things. That's awesome. Glad you got to spend some time with your family and you got some bonus, remodeling in your future. That's great.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about 2 things today: how you use your voice as a pharmacist and as a mom. And let's start with the pharmacist voice first. Now, I understand that you have a website, fertilitypharmacist.com. Can you tell me a little bit first about how you use your voice with your online business?
Yeah, definitely. So in 2019, during the pandemic, I realized I was not fulfilled in my job anymore. I work currently for Indian Health Service in a clinic setting, and we just couldn't see patients anymore. We were having young college kids they hired to take the medications and run them out to people's cars. So we didn't have that interaction. And it just really made me sad. And is kind of why I got into pharmacy, was to counsel and to talk to people. And so I started randomly sharing my story with infertility online, which had been years ago, just to kind of, heal myself in a way. And I just kept getting all these questions and how did I do this? And I actually had a pharmacy student from Alaska that I knew that saw one of my posts, and she said that she's living in another village and her husband are doing IVF, and how did I do it? And so I took her through all the steps. I told her how to order the medications, where to get them from, who my doctor was, and she did all that. And now she has a little boy. So just one day randomly, I said to my husband, if I can help her, why can't I help anyone around the world, And so we talked and talked, and he came up with Fertility Pharmacist. He's like, how cool is that? And so I just decided, and I'd already been interested in functional medicine from my own journey. I struggle with thin uterine lining, and I started seeing an acupuncturist and a naturopath doctor in a town nearby. And so they had introduced me to functional medicine. So I just kind of put the two together and started studying functional medicine myself, and came up with this idea for an online course. And then I actually just started with some of my friends. One of my good friends, Margini, she was my technician in Alaska, and she had just had unfortunately a miscarriage. And so I put her on my little Hope Plus method program, and we did a supplement list for her, and she ended up getting pregnant. So that was super exciting.
Awesome. Well, I love seeing kind of like the end point. Where are you now? What are you doing? And congratulations on your success and creating this online business and being able to help so many women with their fertility journeys. Now I've got to go back a number of years and ask, how did this all get started?
Yeah. So I think in 2012, my husband and I were in Bethel, Alaska. It's a small Eskimo village with like 6,000 people. And we were both pharmacists there. And we went for an adventure, right, out of school. And we accidentally, I wouldn't say accidentally, like we were married and we just got pregnant. Like we were happy, but we weren't really planning it. We were working a lot and it was fine. And we were excited, and our parents were going to come and visit. And we were going to tell them. And I started spotting. And so I had a kind of bad situation where the provider that I worked with, because it's a small clinic, right? And I went in for an ultrasound and he did the thing, and he's like, well, I hope you didn't tell your family because it's not good. Yeah. So I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I didn't understand. I mean, I'm a pharmacist, I should understand. But in that moment, I was a patient, right? And I didn't really, I guess, understand what he meant. And that was the first of 5 miscarriages I had. And then the last one, I had a cervical ectopic pregnancy, which is very rare. And I almost bled to death. So that was, most people don't survive with a uterus. They usually have to have a hysterectomy. But my doctor in Anchorage was she was a reproductive endocrinologist, and her husband was in the Army. And so she couldn't do IVF because they don't offer that in Alaska at this point. And so she was just doing regular OB, right? OBGYN. So I was really lucky to have her as a doctor to see and know what it was. And she was able to come up with, and we're all pharmacists, I guess, so I can say the big words, but we came up with a regimen of methotrexate for, I think it was 10 days. And then we did leucovorin in between. So leucovorin's the rescue because of the folic acid depletion. And I was in the hospital, and I was there for about 3 weeks. It was pretty stressful. Not in the hospital. They let me stay in a hotel eventually. But I was really, really down and out at that point. I mean, it was probably, I'm getting a little emotional, one of the lowest points in my life.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry for your loss.
It's
I'm so
okay.
sorry.
Thank you. It's hard to talk about sometimes. I think Mother's Day brings up a lot. And I'm just so thankful that because there were so many Mother's Days that I didn't want to celebrate. So I'm thankful that I could celebrate. Sorry. Didn't mean to get emotional, but
No, that's all right. What happened after that, after you healed from that, after the methotrexate and the leucovorin?
yeah, so my doctor decided that we needed to pursue IVF at that point because we knew I could get pregnant. We just didn't go to the right place. So that was our next journey. And I felt like every time I had a plan, I felt like I was in a little bit of control. I'm sure in life and fertility, that's one thing we don't have is control, right? And so anything that I could put into my mind as I had control over made me feel better. So I really use that as a buffer to push myself and propel myself forward.
Having a plan helps you feel like you have a little bit of a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened next?
So then I started pursuing IVF in Seattle, which was 3,000 miles away from where I lived. So once again, another barrier.
Wow.
But I did not let that stop me. And I just dove right in and asked all the questions. And they had a case manager that helped specifically with people from out of town. And then I was just super lucky. 2 of my best friends from pharmacy school lived in Seattle. And so I kind of treated it or they helped me treat it like a vacation. Like I'd fly in, they'd pick me up, I'd snuggle their kids and, hang out with them. They'd take us to dinner, and then I'd do my fertility treatments. My best friend, Annie, her husband, Ray, he's just a really special person to me. It worked out that his job was next door to my fertility clinic in downtown Seattle. And so in the morning, He would drive me on a way to his meetings, drop me off, and then I walk around the city a little till he could pick me up. And so it was
Not a
just,
bad deal.
yeah, no, it was pretty amazing. And it just worked out really like seamlessly. And so I'm just really thankful. I guess my point is if you can build a support team around you, it will really help. And at that point, I couldn't get my family there, but my friends were just as close as my family. So we ended up getting only 2 embryos, which is crazy because I have 2 girls. So I really lucked out on that one.
Are you saying that the 2 that they retrieved were able to be implanted and that's how you got your 2 daughters?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty amazing, huh?
Wow. It is.
Yeah.
Success. Yeah,
Very.
times 2. That's great.
And I did a live with my fertility doctor, Dr. Julie Lamb. She's from Pacific Northwest Fertility. Amazing place, an amazing person. And she said, now, Natasha, we don't always get that, remember? She was, but she was super happy for me. And I like to tell people if IVF is something that you have to look, into, definitely research the clinic, the doctor, and then the lab and the embryologists. I really think that is huge, is the embryologist and the lab. I mean, those are the babysitters for our babies, right?
Yes.
And ask the questions. Ask about, what kind of science do they use? What kind of thawing, freezing, all the things. What kind of extra trainings do they have? I really learned, and you don't even realize they'll give you a tour. I mean, you can't go completely into the lab, but they were able to show me as far as I could go. And I really thought that was cool.
That seems like a lot to learn all at once in your online business. Do you coach people about those things to look into?
I do. Yep. That's just part of it. And then I have my online fertility academy that I started this January. I had 6 students sign up, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then I have 2 that decided to move forward with me, and we're doing like one-on-one coaching. And one is about to do IVF soon, and we talk once a week, and we go through their supplements. I go through all the medication plans with them. We talk about, like I said before, I have my Hope Plus method, where I talk more about functional medicine things, like toxins, environmental toxins, sleep, water, things like that. So yeah, it's pretty all encompassing. And then I'm hoping to have more to come where I just talk more about IVF medications themselves. It's hard to get samples to demonstrate. I've been trying really hard contacting drug companies, but I haven't had any response back. So and I did my IVF in 2014. So obviously I didn't save them. I should have probably, but.
What would you do with samples if you were able to get them?
Yeah. So I want to do teaching tutorials. I have one already on my Instagram. It was like, I think at this point I have like 50,000 views on TikTok. And my husband and I did it on how to draw out progesterone and oil. And then I did one how to administer it. So yeah.
I wonder if there's something that you could get that's similar, but not testosterone in oil.
Yeah.
I'm just spitballing to try to help you.
Yeah, and I have like a regular like Levemir pen that I got from my job as a demonstrator, not a pen. It's just a fake one, but I
Mhm.
I can maybe use that too. So I've been trying to be a little more creative, and just trying to educate people more on how to use the fertility medications and side effects. I think that's one of the biggest questions. Like you were saying, people ask what's the one thing people always ask is, can I drink alcohol when I take the medications? Is usually the first one. And then the second one is, what about the side effects? So I really try to at least once a month talk about that on my platforms, just to, because not everyone sees everything the first time. So I try to incorporate that back.
Right. I will definitely put links to your TikTok channel and your Instagram page, however you call those pages, channels, whatnot, in the show notes. Anybody listening to this that wants to access those, check out the show notes at thepharmacistvoice.com. And this will be episode 151. Now, I have a lot of questions about what you were talking about with your online course and, finally getting pregnant. Could you share with me how long it took from the time you started trying to have a family to actually having a successful IVF implantation?
Yeah. So the beginning of 2012 is when we started. And then my daughter was not born until 2015. So quite a few years went by. And a lot of those years we didn't know what was wrong. I don't think we still know, other than my uterine lining won't thicken up correctly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I had McKinley's my oldest. She was born in October of 2015. And I actually had 2 canceled cycles, not failed, canceled, because my lining wasn't thick enough. So I was getting pretty frustrated. I didn't think it would happen. And then I had baby Bristol in 2019, and she was born. Another crazy story. At 32 weeks, I was life flighted out with preeclampsia. So we were in the NICU for 2 months with her. But now they're just little crazy Spitfires and doing well. And I just didn't let it get me down. So
Congrats on all the craziness. That's great. Really, I'm so happy for you. And I'm so happy that you're able to help other people. It sounds like you are currently helping 6 others. Is that correct?
yeah, so my course just wrapped up last 2 weeks ago, and then I had an option if people wanted to continue working with me, and so 2 of them decided to continue, and we, like I said, talk once a week about depending on what's going on with them, and I just support them on their journey still.
Awesome. Can they access this online academy through fertilitypharmacist.com or is there a different site?
Yes. So right now I have a wait list. I'm going to launch hopefully either the beginning to middle of summer. I'm working on some things. I want to add a couple more things into the course, that some feedback that I got from my first students that they wanted added. And so I'm working on that right now. But I do have a wait list on fertilitypharmacist.com. And I actually also am starting soon to offer the Dutch test. You probably heard of that.
Sure,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'm not quite there yet. I'm just not, I still work my day job too. So I do 30 hours a week at Indian Health Service as a clinical pharmacist. And so I have to kind of, you know, as we were talking before, spread my time as best as I can. But soon I want to be offering that. And yeah, in the future, I'm starting to look into educating other pharmacists and, nutritionists, anyone on that, on the fertility meds. So if they, like I have a really good friend, her name is Caitlin. She's the PCOS dietitian. And I was on her podcast. Amazing, amazing person. And her and I were talking, and she was like, hey, like, you could teach, like one of her clients asked her about Femara, and she's like, I had to research it forever, but you could teach other people, like coaches, about the fertility medication, so then they can teach their people. So that's something that I'm definitely looking into expanding to. That might be more into next year, but something I'm thinking about.
Isn't it amazing how you start a business and then you get these little offshoot businesses where people come to you and say, are you able to do this or do you have an interest in doing this? And then you get to pick if you pursue it or not. Isn't that interesting?
I think it's really fun and cool because
Yeah.
in pharmacy school, I didn't think of any of this. I thought that you went to Target and you counted by 5. And then my mind got a little bit more open when I learned about Indian Health Service, right? Because they're clinical, like the VA is very clinical too. And when I went to Bethel, I was able to do a collaborative practice agreement with doctors. I could order labs. I did Coumadin clinics, all these things that they talk. I mean, of course, I went to pharmacy school 12 years ago, but they talk about them, but you don't really know it as much how to get into it. So I think
Hmm.
just learning new things as an entrepreneur person and as a pharmacist and as a mother is pretty amazing, because I want to stay home with my babies more. You know, I do love my pharmacy job, but I like being home with my kids. And I just have such a passion for fertility things that if I could make this a full-time business, I think that I would choose that way.
Oh, all right. Well, I wish you luck. And I, of course, have been watching your journey for a while now, and I can't wait to watch it some more. This is going to be interesting to see, if you end up going all in full time entrepreneur.
Awesome. I like how you said it. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, I love that you talked about how much you work as a full time pharmacist, which you say is 30 hours a week with the Indian Health Service, right?
Yes.
And then you're able to do this on the side. And I can, people can't see my hands, but if you could have a little graph, where your full-time hours are going down as the entrepreneur hours are going up, before you know it, you're going to be 50-50. So again, I'm excited to see your journey and thank you for sharing and being real about how much time it takes to be a mom and be a pharmacist and be an entrepreneur, because people need to hear that. Sometimes people think entrepreneurship is the key to having a lighter work week, but sometimes it's plenty more work by itself, right?
Yes. It sounds like you've been doing this a lot longer than me, that I think you know too, but and it's hard to like, people say, well, just hire someone to do this and hire someone to do that, but it adds up. And so, and plus I think it's good. Like, I learned Kajabi on my own, and now I can go in and change my website myself if I want to. I built my online course myself. Unfortunately, I hired a business coach that was very expensive, and I'm not sure I got out of that what I should have, but that's part of being an entrepreneur too, right? You learn as you go. There's ups and downs, and tax.
Oh, and taxes too. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry,
Yes.
go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I hired an accountant to do my taxes, and I previously, before being an entrepreneur, had only used TurboTax, but now I swear by accountants, and I'm so organized. They only charge me like $375. I love it. Yeah.
That's how my husband is too. He's the tablet binder, perfect, organized. Yeah, everything has a little binder.
Your husband and I would get along. I'm a binder kind of a gal.
He works he's a pharmacist, like I said, at the hospital, and there's a new pharmacist that just started, and he's like, can you believe it? He doesn't even write down in a notebook or have a binder or anything. And I was just like, oh my word. Yeah, he's so organized. When I started this new journey, I said I need some more help around the house, and so he started taking over laundry, which he's amazing. I mean, he folds a towel to the like perfect dimension. So yeah,
That takes
he's
practice. I'm sure
definitely,
he's
yeah,
practiced.
he's definitely a pharmacist. So
Awesome. I'm glad that he's helping you around the house. We all need help from our partners, don't we? Yes. Yes. Well, one of the other things I was going to ask is that, and I'm sorry I interrupted you earlier, I wanted to ask, as a public health service employee, is that a career that you would recommend to other pharmacists? Is it a family friendly career?
I don't want to put Indian Health Services down at all, because that's another one of my passions. Like, I have been with IHS for 12 years, and I just love it. And some of the people that I was able to meet, my husband and I were able to pay off our student loans, which was amazing.
Amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. Of course, we lived 7 years in Bethel, where, milk and gas was $7 a gallon at the time.
Oh,
Yeah, everything
my.
is barged in. We lived on limited water. It would be 50 below sometimes. Pretty much a third world country in America, um, but it could be even worse in the other villages. So we were pretty lucky, but it was an adventure, and we became closer together as a partner. Um, I think for me, so right now where I work, like I said, I do 310s, which is amazing schedule. So I think that's family friendly. They offer free healthcare, which is unheard of. They pay our premium. That just started this last year because I think they're trying to recruit people. And it is tribally owned where I work. So it's a little different than the actual people that are like Indian Health Service Commission Corps. That's a whole nother route that you can look into. But I do definitely feel like it is family friendly for me. Weekends, we get 10 federal holidays, maybe a little cushy, I guess, but
So you're not part of the public health service portion of the Indian Health Service, is that correct?
you're right. Yep. Nope, I am not. So both places where I worked were tribally owned.
That is different. I had never heard of that, but still, I think there might be one or two listeners out here who's listening and thinking, "Where can I sign up?"
Called Yukon-Kuskokwim Health Corporation, ykhc.org, and they have, I think, 5 or 6 pharmacist positions open. So, but it is very expensive to live there. And I think we moved home because it's hard to find. They didn't have childcare. It was hard
Mm.
to find reliable childcare, and so we wanted to be closer to family. But yeah, when you're a new grad and you want experience, it was amazing. A lot of things were like the Wild West sometimes, I felt like, that they would just say, well, this is how we've always done it. And we're like, okay, because we didn't know, we were learning. So, but it was a good place to get our feet wet and to grow together too, as pharmacists and a couple, as a husband and wife.
Yes. Oh, this is all good stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is he still also employed by the Indian Health Service there?
No, he changed. He enjoys, so in the one we were in Bethel, they had a hospital. So he did inpatient pharmacy. And so he
Oh,
enjoys inpatient pharmacy more. So he works at our local hospital in our town. And he recently took the job. Soon he'll be the informatics pharmacist. So that's a whole nother route that we didn't even think about going down. So he'll be the IT pharmacist.
That's kind of like an intellectual adventure all of its own, just trying to learn something new after having been out for a while. But hey, if that's his strength, crunching data, and he loves it, then more power to him.
He is the audit king.
Awesome. Well, is there any other way that you use your voice as a pharmacist that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, so I actually head the Narcan program in my local town. My boss and I together we educate people on how to use Narcan and what to look out for drug overdoses. And so we're helping with there's been a big um, influx in our community of fentanyl laced drugs, unfortunately. And so we're really trying to educate and push out there that, you can have this Narcan kit available. This is where you store it. This is how you use it. We were able to get a grant to do that. So I do that. And then also I am a hepatitis case manager where I work. So a lot of times the um, cost for hepatitis medications is very expensive, and our tribe does not cover that. So when you're Indian Health Service, you get free healthcare, but there's certain things that they don't cover. And so I've been able, I think my last count was I've cured 19 people, and I've actually made our clinic money because when you
Way
do
to go.
patient, yeah, thank you. When you do, if you do prior authorization through their insurance, sometimes you'll get some money back. And so through insurance, patient assistance, and I got creative. I helped one family get the tribe to pay for their premiums for the wife's job so they could get insurance to get the medication. So that's been very rewarding. And when I was in Bethel, I was head of the Synergist program. So we had a lot of babies up there with RSV. And so I was like a case manager for that too. So just lots of creative things that you can do that you wouldn't normally think of.
Thank you for sharing all that. And when you mentioned the word babies, I wanted to ask you something. You were featured in Pharmacist magazine, which is Dr. Jerika Dodd's publication in spring 2021. And in there, I got it in my hands right now in case anybody hears me shuffling paper. And you mention rainbow babies. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so rainbow babies is like what they say. What is your baby you get after the storm, right? After a storm comes a rainbow. And so in the infertility world, your infertility journey is the storm, and then at the end you get your rainbow. And so I have two little rainbow babies. McKinley is 6 and Bristol is 2, and I'm just so thankful for them every day. And I try when I get frustrated, because, us moms, we get tired, we get worn down and frustrated. And then I try to snap myself back and say, no, I want these babies so much. I prayed for them so much. I'm so thankful they're here. Um, and then I just get on with my day. But it is hard. Being a mom, I think we talked shuffling all the things. Being the caregiver, the wife, the pharmacist is hard. And able to find that balance. I have a lot of help. My in-laws help a lot. I have a really good friend, Annie. She watches my little one for me every Wednesday so I can do things like this. And so I do have a lot of people around me to support me.
Thank you, Annie, if you're listening.
You're on the
podcast. You're part of this now, Annie.
Listen, yes.
Awesome. Hey, we got to acknowledge our support systems because they're important. If it weren't for school and grandparents and the only caregiver that we have left in my family for my son, Craig, who's 19 and has autism, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So thank you, caregivers and teachers everywhere. Totally.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that is such a meaningful title, Rainbow Babies. Thank you for sharing that. I actually had never heard of that before. And I was getting a little teary too, thinking about, that is the gift after the storm. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate it because I don't always think about it all the time.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And it's in print in the spring 2021 edition of Pharmacist magazine if you ever want to check that out. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we are starting to transition to how you use your voice as a mom, and we're already talking about balancing work and job, but work and family. But I wanted to ask, is there anything else that you wanted to share as a pharmacist? Anything else that you do as a pharmacist?
I just really want to encourage moms out there. Like if you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling tired, I just know a lot of myself and my pharmacy friends, we've been in this business for like 12 to 15 years. we're tired. We're not sure we like pharmacy anymore, right? And so if you can, remember back to those days of school when you were so excited and you just thought the world was your oyster and you were going to help so many people, and just try to hold on to that, because I think we can get beat down so much by day-to-day things. And, it's hard. Like, you can answer a phone and get screamed at any day of the week, right? You don't know what's coming at you. I kind of liken it to, remember on Flintstones, the little octopus babysitter, and she'd have all the babies in her hands, juggling all the things.
No, but I'm going to look that up on YouTube.
Yeah, that's a pharmacist, right? That's, I think, why women are so good at being pharmacists, because we know how to multitask, right? I mean, we're typing, we're answering a phone, we have a technician in our ear saying, I need this override. So I encourage all of you ladies out there that are pharmacists that are struggling right now, just dig deep and remember why you love the profession so much. Focus on those little sweet old ladies that you get to see for Coumadin Clinic that you love, or that sweet little old guy that comes and brings you cookies every 3 weeks from his wife, things like that. I think the pandemic has really kind of hurt our profession, because we can't see each other's faces anymore. We can't talk to patients like we wanted to, like we used to. I think it's getting better, but I think it did take a hit for me and for pharmacists in general. And I guess on the other hand is just know you're doing a good job. You're a mom, you're a pharmacist, you're that little octopus babysitter juggling all the things, and that you're doing a good job, and just try not to give up on it.
Thank you for sharing that about burnout. We all need to hear those words of wisdom. Next, I'd like to talk about mom stuff, and some of this is going to be fun. You already told me a little bit about your family. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Just, I guess, it is totally doable that you can do all the things. Um, just make sure, like we said before, have a good team around you of support system. And no, my mantra was always don't give up. And I know I've gotten some negative feedback with that, because some people, say they can't afford IVF, or, that's toxic to say, but just for me personally, it pushed me through. And so I always say never give up, because you don't know, that one door you may walk through may be what leads you to what you really want.
Yes, and I'm happy you and your husband were able to have your two spunky daughters, or did you call them Spitfire daughters?
Yeah, we call Bristol a pistol.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. That would, oh man, that would be my nickname, because I was a little bit of a handful.
When you're little.
I was a tomboy, big time.
Oh,
Yeah, always wanted to be out with the guys and doing all the fun things. It was a good time to grow up. But anyways, so you have your husband and your two daughters, and I just wanted to ask you something, kind of like advice for prospective moms. How does anyone know, as a pharmacist mom, when to start a family? What is your advice on when it's a good time to start a family?
that's kind of a tough question, because I think everyone's time for them is different. My good friend Annie, that I told you about, that helped me. I have two Annies, the babysitter Annie, my good friend, but the one that her husband helped me during the IVF period. They live in Seattle. She had her first baby in our second year of pharmacy school. And then she had her second baby in like the end of our fourth year. She was literally in labor during our finals of the fourth year. And
Oh my
so,
gosh.
I mean, for her, she's just an amazing woman, and she could juggle it all, and it worked out great. And I don't think she would change it for the world. But I do think it's hard. And I waited, and I kind of worry I waited a little too long, because now, my in-laws are older, and I don't know how much my daughters will get to enjoy them. And it's harder. My husband and I are both in our 40s. It's like, we're tired. We probably could have done this better when we were 25. So I always joke that my firstborn was my college degree, because it took me so long to get it. I got a biology degree and waited a year. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I was like 9 years in. So I think it's personal. I think it is doable in pharmacy school, but I do think it can be a challenge.
Right. It can be. And there's no right or wrong answer for that question. I just thought I'd ask, because that is something that I think pharmacy students that listen to this podcast need to hear. Just that somebody actually did it and it was possible. They had two kids during pharmacy school and they graduated. Shout
Yeah,
out to Annie number two.
I know. And they're like big giant boy teenagers now. It makes me so sad. I'm like, where'd my little baby go?
Well, I know they do grow up, don't they? And they grow up fast.
Yes.
Yeah, but I have a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old, and sometimes I think I blinked. I think they say the years are short, but the days are long, and that is true. Would you agree with that too?
I so agree with that. I've been feeling it lately. We had a big yard sale this last weekend and I sold all my baby stuff and it was
Oh,
hard. It was hard, but it was nice to clear out.
yes. Yeah, and then you make room, mentally and physically for all those things that come next.
Yes, definitely.
Girl clothes have got to be fun. Is it fun to shop for girl clothes?
It is so fun, and there's so many mommy and me matching things, it can get me in big trouble, so I try to limit myself, and my sister-in-law, she loves to shop, and she has an older daughter, so she gives us great hand-me-downs, and I'm a sucker for good hand-me-downs, so
Oh, hand-me-downs, especially if they're free? That's awesome. You
I
enjoy
know.
those.
I always
Awesome.
tell my husband that clutter equals chaos, so because he has a hard time letting go of things, but I'm like, "We need to, like, clear out our lives a little bit."
Yes. Yes. I can be a paper hoarder, but when it comes to stuff, I get rid of it. But hey, everybody struggles with something, and thanks for admitting it, because somebody out there needs to hear that they are normal.
Yes, love that.
Yes. Absolutely. Now, we just talked about one fun thing about being a mom. You get to dress like your daughter, you get to have those matching outfits. But what are some of your other favorite things about being a mom?
I we recently started going back to church and I've just really enjoyed that. My daughter goes to a religious school and kind of inspired us. Like if we're asking her to go to church, we're going to go to church. And it's just been really nice as a family to do that together. I think it's really helped slow us down a little bit and kind of see what's important for our family. My little Bristol was born right before COVID hit. And so recently our little McDonald's play area opened up and I got to take her and her eyes just lit up. She didn't know what to do or to think. She was almost afraid of it, which is so silly, right? But I think just spending time with them. And then I've also been lucky enough to kind of meet some other moms, that my kids are friends with and get into some of those little circles, which it's not easy being wiggling your way into mom friends. That's a whole nother probably podcast, right? But um, sometimes I feel like you have kids, I have kids. Can we be friends? But I'm a little awkward at that. I think because I was working all the time, so I was rusty at making friends. But yeah, it's just really opened my eyes to spending time with them and getting outside more and doing fun things like that.
Yeah, as for making mom friends, because I was mostly a stay-at-home mom at first, I was able to make friends with other people that were mostly stay-at-home moms, but the moms that I have stayed closest with are the moms who were also working moms. So I just wanted to share that with you in case you meet people on the playground. The working moms, sometimes they're not there as much, but they have a lot of value too. I was one of them.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I still am too. I think we can help each other pick up the slack a lot.
Awesome, yeah, and then it'll lead to mom's night out and other things.
Yeah.
You need support, absolutely. Yeah, what are some of your other favorite parts of being a mom?
I I just am thankful that, I have the opportunity. For so many years, I didn't know if I would have that opportunity. So just watching the excitement in their eyes with, little things like the play area or Christmas, um, and just really try to stay grounded and thankful that I have them. I do worry a lot if I'm doing a good enough job. Like it's hard, they don't come with a manual. So I'm like, are we reading enough? Are we practicing our words enough? Are we where we were supposed to be? Little Bristol, since she was born premature, she was always a little bit behind. And then she just, I mean, exactly what they said would happen, right? When she hit 2 years old, I guess one and a half, she just like blossomed. And so she exceeds our expectations now. She talks in full sentences and says things that make us laugh. So I think eventually it taught me things always tend to work out, but I still worry. I worry a lot.
I know when you have a premature baby and they tell you about milestones and you just don't know if they're going to hit them or not. I know you hold your breath a little bit when you go in and they ask you, are they talking? Are they pointing with their finger? Are they making eye contact? All that stuff. So I feel you on that. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everything just goes fine, and it sounds like they're blossoming, and if they're making it to McDonald's Playland, that's an education in itself too.
Right. No ball pit anymore, but
Oh, geez, that must be different post-pandemic. Well, it's not post-pandemic, but, during the pandemic. I can't imagine, kids not growing up with access to some of these things, but I'm seeing it through your eyes because you have little ones now and mine are grown. So there's all kinds of things I haven't had to think about in a while.
yeah, just different things too. Like, I think she was 1.5 before we took her to a restaurant, because she was preemie and then COVID, so we didn't want to risk it. And she was born in October, I'm sorry, September. But by the time she came home from the NICU, it was November. So we didn't want to take her, with RSV and the flu and then COVID in January. So the poor little girl didn't get out at all. And that we have the Idaho Infant Toddler Program that comes and checks on her with her speech and her. She had to do physical therapy for a long time. She had bad reflux, so unfortunately, she didn't get tummy time because she would throw up everything she ate, and we didn't want that. So she didn't sit up until she was like 10 months old. That was really hard. And then when she did walk, her first steps, she tripped and broke her leg. It was awful.
Oh my
And she was,
gosh. Wow.
yeah, she's just my little troublemaker. Can you see this?
Yes.
Oh, she got a buckle fracture. We didn't even know. She tripped over a little nap mat, like a little pad that my
Mhm.
daughter was laying on. Um, she got up, walked, and her grandparents were watching her. They rushed her to the pediatrician, and even the pediatrician was like, "Well, she didn't fall." So here we are trying to make her walk on it for, a week or two, and it was rough. But yeah, I guess that's one unexpected thing is all the curveballs. And you probably know this with your kids too. It's like you just don't know what to expect because anything can happen.
Yes, and things you have never even heard of will happen.
Yes.
Yep. In my Thanksgiving episode, I talked about how my son had a urologic emergency, and I don't want to steal your thunder, so I'm just going to leave it at that. If anybody wants to hear more about it, my Thanksgiving 2021 episode has all the details, all the nitty gritty. Now, we're already
Okay.
talking about challenges. So, what are some of the other challenges of being a mom?
I think right now is just my time. I went to physical at the doctor the other day and she said, "Do you ever sit down? Do you ever take a break for you?" And I said, "No, we got this beautiful new couch and I realized I've never even really sat on it because it's like the minute you hit the door." And she said, it really hit me. She said, "Just think of when you go to work, that's your break." She said that because she had twins. Now they're grown like your kids. But she said she's a nurse practitioner. She goes, "When I would go to work, I'd tell everyone this is my break." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's a way to think about it." But I definitely do work sometimes harder at home than at my pharmacist job, I think.
Yeah, as a mom, we all have to hustle. We have to do the beds, dishes, laundry, dinner prep. And it helps when you have a supportive spouse or partner, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah.
Yeah. Well, any other challenges that you wanted to mention, maybe that current or prospective moms might be interested in hearing about?
I guess not other than, if you are a pharmacist and you're a mom and you're just wondering if there's something else out there for you and you have a passion, I'd say follow it. I think, entrepreneurship on the internet these days is just really booming and you can make an online course out of anything if that's what your passion is or a podcast like we talked about. I'm interested in that. And so I would say just open your eyes and try to spread your wings a little on something that you're passionate about and follow your dreams. Being a pharmacist is great, being a mom is great, but sometimes we just need that extra something to fulfill us.
Yes. And you mentioned something that's important for people to hear, especially women. It's almost like sometimes we need somebody to give us permission to follow our dreams. And you totally just did that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, some days I'm like, what am I doing? Why did I do this again? But I didn't realize that people are watching. Like I told you I took a break from social media this last month. I had some, family stuff going on and I just felt really overwhelmed. And two people reached out to me and were like, "Hey, are you okay? You haven't posted anything for a while." And it kind of made me realize, wow, people, they may not tell you they're watching, but they are watching. And I
Yeah.
hope they're enjoying what they see.
Absolutely. You give good advice and you talk about things that not everybody knows about. I remember watching one of your Instagram lives and you actually were talking about male infertility, which I didn't even think about. I mean, I know it's a thing. The male of the couple could be the contributor to the infertility instead of the female, but you have good content and I think that's why people follow you.
Thank you. Yeah, I try. It's hard sometimes because I'm like, we all get discouraged and we all wonder if this is worth it because it is a lot of work. I
Mhm.
think, like you said, it looks easy, like when you see someone else do it, but you have to get in there and learn all about the different aspects. But anyway, you can do it. You just have to learn, and it's been a learning curve. It's been a year and a half for me, and um, I'm not making six figures like in my dream world I would be, but my husband always says, "Who cares? You're helping people, right?" And I say, "Yes." And then he says, "And that's what you do this for, right?" And I say, "Yes." So I just want to help and to kind of wrap it up or turn it back to my beginning passion, why I started was I miss that interaction with people. I miss talking to people, counseling people. Counseling I see now I'm going to brag. I was the counseling I won the counseling competition in my school. I ended up going to the national. I didn't win over silly fluoxetine and like sexual libido. I guess I couldn't. I don't know. I was embarrassed to counsel him. Still to this day, that is a thorn in my side. But um, yeah, so I just love counseling people and talking to people. I've always been a little chatty girl, so I can get myself out there, which is silly because my husband is so quiet and private. We're just opposite like that. But
Opposites attract.
yes. So, yeah, I just took my passion and I guess my hurt. I had a lot of hurt from the infertility and I kind of married it into one and just, last week I was talking to one of my clients and she was talking about Mother's Day and it's, she doesn't have anyone to talk to that this is hard because they don't share their journey, which is so normal, right? We didn't share our journey and she's going to be seeing her mother and her sister-in-law and I just really felt for her because I've been there in in her shoes and I just wanted to take it away from her for somehow, but I didn't know how. And so I just tried to say, I totally understand, and I'm here for you, and I'm praying that one day you're going to have your rainbow baby.
Absolutely. There's that term again, rainbow baby. Yeah.
No.
Well, I think that there are many people out there that turn their pain into a purpose or use their pain for a purpose. That's probably the better way to say it. And I think that's exactly what you're doing. You had a heck of a time getting pregnant and you had miscarriages and a very unusual ectopic type pregnancy and then you had only 2 eggs and both of them worked. Your story needs to be told, and you are doing it.
Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
get to meet amazing people like you who I can tell you're an amazing mom and that you give selflessly, and it's just really inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think that like minded people often find one another, and I'm so glad that we could connect and have this conversation today. And I'd like to get into some fun stuff, some fun mom stuff, if that'd be all right.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, here we go. Is there ever a mom's night out in your life? Have you started doing those yet?
Ah, well, no, we used to, but we used to get together and play bunco. I had like a little bunco group. So, but we kind of stopped that with the pandemic, but it's
Mm.
definitely something I'd like to again. And then I recently was invited a mom's group. They do a book club. So, and they have wine and cheese and all the fun things. So I haven't been able to go yet because I work those nights, but I'm going to try to definitely to make that an effort.
Good for you. Good for you. And what is one of your favorite me time activities?
I'd love to cook. I don't know why baking is like my favorite thing. Like looking at recipes and Pinterest and then it's usually a Pinterest fail, but sometimes they work out. So
You need to post the pictures of the fails because we all need to laugh. It's so relatable.
I tried to do the little heart cupcakes with the little marble, did not work out.
Oh, okay. I haven't tried that yet, but my local library has cake pans, all kinds of different
types of cake pans, right?
That
And
you can rent?
you check them out like you would a book, right?
Wow,
Yeah.
that is so
I
cool.
have tried all kinds. So if you follow me on Instagram, I've put a couple of cakes on there. You can decide if it's a fail or a win, but I have
That
done it.
is so neat.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, good for you. I'm glad that you enjoy baking, and I hope you get to do that with your girls. I think that they would probably love that as they get older.
I think so too.
Yeah. All right. Well, another fun question since we're on the topic of food. Can you remember any of your cravings when you were pregnant with each of your girls?
The one I remember the most was McKinley, and I craved Mexican food. And in Southeast Idaho, where I grew up, there's this place called Los Albertos. It's like authentic, real Mexican food run by the sweetest lady. And they had an Idaho burrito, which is so silly. It was like the heaviest burrito filled with potatoes and sausage and eggs.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember telling my brother, he lives there still, and we called it gold streaking. And that's where you can put something on Alaska Airlines and they like overnight it. And I would say, I was like begging him, like, I'll pay you $500 for an Idaho burrito if you'll just take it. But no, yeah. And then unfortunately there wasn't really anywhere, like they had a lot of Asian restaurants because in Bethel, they had a big population of Korean people that would come and they would drive taxi cabs there because people didn't have cars. So there was good Asian food and sushi, strangely enough, really good sushi there, but no Mexican food. So that was and then I would get heart. I guess the other thing was kimchi. I loved kimchi. Like that was, my husband hated it, and the baby would always get hiccups.
Oh my gosh, that's really
Yeah,
something. I get hiccups when I have soda pop or spicy food. So it's funny you should mention hiccups with spicy food. All right, a couple more questions if you don't mind. Do you have any book suggestions or product suggestions for current or prospective moms?
I don't know. I know a lot of kids' books. We've been going through the Bernstein Bear collection.
Oh, yeah.
My mom saved all of ours from when we were kids. I had a full collection.
Wow.
So our favorite right now is the Case of the Gimmies. And it talks about Brother Bear and they gimme, gimme, they want. Every time they go to the store, they're asking for something.
Oh, I'm sure I've read that one.
Well, yeah, that's a little embarrassing. I haven't read any adult books in a while because I've just been so busy. And to be honest, I'm like a romance novel junkie. That's a little embarrassing, but I love me a good romance novel. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So if I have, I'll sometimes read at night.
Okay. Hey, here's a recommendation from me to you, and I'm going to leave this in the podcast in case anybody else is interested. But it's called The Rosie Project by Graeme Simsion, and it's the Australian spelling of Graeme, Graeme, Graeme. And it is a three-part series. When I first started it, only one was out, The Rosie Project, and then The Rosie Effect, and then The Rosie Result. And it's a pretty good series. I'm just putting it out there. It's kind of romance, but it's not like hot and heavy. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna have to try that one out.
It's
Yeah,
almost like romantic comedy.
I love those.
All right, cool.
I guess I do have a good book. It's fertility related, but my fertility doctor wrote it, Dr. Julie Lamb, and it's the ultimate guide to egg freezing. So, a side note, that's another thing I'm kind of passionate about is egg freezing because I feel like if that was available during my journey, it would have really changed things for me, possibly. And I know it can be expensive and it is hard, and maybe not everyone wants to think or talk about it, but I do think for the younger people that are career driven, that might be a possible thing for them to think about. And I just think the technology is so cool.
Yeah, oh yeah, that technology advances and then you're able to help a broader range of people. So again, what's the book called?
It's The Ultimate Guide to Egg Freezing by Dr. Julie Lamb.
Well, thank you. I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much. She'd appreciate that.
Awesome. My next question has to do with money. Now, we both know that raising kids is expensive. Having kids is expensive. On your journey to motherhood or while you've had your kids, what is one thing you've had to buy that you've been really surprised about?
My husband still to this day thinks it was so silly, but the wipe warmer, I thought that was, my pediatrician friend got it for us. And it really was amazing. Like, cause it went out and quit working for a while and the baby was not having it. She was used to her warm wipes. But then one thing that we did buy that my husband loved was that, unfortunately I pumped, but we had to do formula with my oldest daughter because she wasn't a good latcher. And so we ended up doing formula and, we had the, what's it called? It's like the Keurig machine for formula.
They didn't have that when my kids were little. Oh,
You just hit the button and then it mixes it for you.
cool.
It's like a Brezza baby, I think it's called. But that was one thing that I was like, this is awesome. And they're even fancier now. My niece is having a baby and she got one, and it's like an app on your phone. So you can be upstairs, hit the button, and it makes the bottle and you go down and get it. And it's the perfect temperature.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm telling you, there's some current or prospective mom that's listening to this thinking, oh, I need that.
Exactly.
We did not know about the bouncer. It is I'm trying to think. It kind of vibrates or it plays music, and you sit your baby in it, and they just kind of chill like
Yeah.
a chair,
And
like
it kind
a
of
recliner.
bounces them a
Yeah, and
little.
it bounces. You can just kind of tap it with your foot if you're hanging out on the couch, and they're happy. And I did not
Uh-huh.
know about that until my first one was probably 6 or 7 months old. That was a game changer for me.
That's how I would take showers. I'd put her in there and then put the little bouncer in there, and then I'd be in the shower and she'd be playing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can have eyes on the baby then. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for sharing those. And let's
Yeah.
see. I just want to open this up as we wrap this up. Do you have any other advice for current or prospective moms about parenting or pregnancy or fertility? Anything. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you again for having me. I think I just, want to inspire women. If you are struggling with infertility, I know it's hard to open up. I know my partner was private. So a lot of that I kept private for him when I probably would have wanted to share it. I guess it's always important to consider your partners. I'm a huge advocate of that. But also, for yourself, if you can share, even share with a friend, with your mom, with your sister. I think just that one person, like a sounding board to kind of bounce problems, ideas, fears can really help you. So I just encourage you to share if you feel like you can, because I always didn't have that permission and to myself. So I think that's important.
Permission to share, permission granted.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. And is there anything else as a pharmacist or as a mom that you'd like to share as we wrap this up?
Just my best advice is, just go in with an open mind and do the best you can. And not everything has to be perfect. I was at dance class once with my daughter a few years ago, and she was running around like a crazy woman. And the other mom just looked at me and I was like, oh no, what is she going to say? And she goes, it's okay. We're all just doing the best we can to survive. And I was like, thank you. Those are the words. We're doing the best we can to survive.
Absolutely. I think that sometimes I've joked about this before on the podcast. Sometimes if everybody's still alive at the end of the day, we're doing pretty good.
It's okay.
Yeah. We're all just trying to get it right for our families. And that's a
Definitely.
good thing to do. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Stamper, for being here on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Happy belated Mother's Day, and you take care.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd like to share just 2 final thoughts with you. First of all, Dr. Natasha Stamper used her experiences, her life experiences, and her voice to help others. And second, I want to point out that maybe there's something that's happened in your life that you can share with others to help them through a difficult time too. In the show notes today, you will find lots of links. You will find links to Dr. Natasha Stamper's LinkedIn profile, her TikTok channel, Instagram page, Facebook page, YouTube channel, Fertility Pharmacist business website, book and product suggestions, and more. And let me just wrap this up by saying thank you for listening to episode 151 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes and check out all those links. If you know someone who would like this episode or needs to hear it, please share it with them and subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Join me next week for part 4 of the Pharmacist Mom series. That's the final part. Thank you again for listening.